Today I wanted to show an example of how we can use Trove to quickly get after some data that we're interested in. So here's the opening page, the introduction page for Trove, and you can see that we've broken out the information by maps, reports, graphs, data and dashboards, and we'll show the use of dashboards for actually querying the data very quickly, and then we can actually go on and then search in more details in data. Some of these other functions we'll talk about in follow-up videos. So to start, let's show how Trove works. Essentially it's click, and here we go, we click on dashboard and we see here sort of a breakdown and analysis of all the oil fields, discoveries and some prospects and even dry holes. You can see them listed down here in this section. We've got it for both the Barents Sea and the Norwegian Sea. The operators involved with these assets are given here, and the ages of the assets are shown in this section. Finally, the type, so whether it's oil, gas, condensate or something similar, is shown in this section here. So what I would like to do is I'd like to show that we're interested in discoveries in the Barents Sea. So by clicking Barents Sea, we click here on discoveries. Now we've chosen Barents Sea and we've got it down to discoveries, and let's say that we're only interested in oil and gas, so we're leaving out gas and gas condensate fields. And finally, now we're going to look at just the Jurassic and the Jurassic Triassic, so stacked reservoirs. Now you can see that this dashboard doesn't look quite as impressive now. We've found 11 examples in the Barents Sea, all discoveries, 6 of which are operated by Equinor, 2 are in open acreage, 2 by OMV, 1 by Lundin, and you can see that 9 of them are just within Jurassic sediments, 2 are Jurassic and Triassic, and we've got both oil and gas and oil. The actual assets that satisfy that criteria are highlighted underneath, so we can actually have a look at those and see if these are the fields that we're interested in. So for the purposes of this exercise, we'll say, yes, this is the subset we're interested in. So what we can do now is we can go back to data, and essentially using these slices on the right, we can select the same criteria: Barents Sea, discovery, not using the operator here, oil and gas, discovery, and I'll basically just make that Jurassic and Triassic. So we will now see the 11 chosen fields within the database. Here we have the 11 assets, 11 discoveries that fit the criteria that we were looking at. So if we want to take a look at one just to show the sort of data that exists, if we click here on Johan Castberg, you can see that the information here is information that can be found on the MPD website. However, this information you actually have to drill down to find it, but what we've kind of done is really try to include that and bring it right to the fore. As we move over here, we can see examples of information that we found from a variety of sources. So here is a typical example. This is Johan Castberg. To show another example, if we pick on one that I can pronounce, Snovitz Beta, Snovitz, apologies for the pronunciation, but you can see here we have again all the information, and it's the speed with which you can find information. This is real time, obviously, while I'm speaking, that we can jump backwards and forwards and we can see the information on the fields. But what we've also done is we've captured that information in tabular form, and so you can see here there are something like 139 columns. Not all of them are populated because not all of them have data associated with them, but we've actually filled in many of these. So that's the sort of information you get when you look into it. Now we use this dashboard here to do an analysis, but we can have multiple dashboards. So using the same criteria we've selected, Barents Sea discoveries that are oil and gas, oil and gas, that contain Jurassic age reservoirs. They happen to be, this is a result that we haven't actually activated the filter over here, and this is how we would toggle the filters on and off. But if we click, we can go to another dashboard. In this particular scenario there are only two, and again you can see we retain the same criteria. They're all in the Barents Sea, they're all Jurassic, but now we're seeing that typically the water depths for these particular discoveries are in the range of 300 to 400 meters. The API gravity, 30 to 40. We don't have data on many of these, and only 2 of them have reserves quoted in the various sources. Hydrocarbon columns, generally less than 50 meters, but some of them are up to 200 meters. So we can actually have a range of criteria, and I think if we kind of actually open these out now to show all basins, both the Barents and the Norwegian Sea, and all ages, you can see that we get a lot more data. And if I jump back to this other dashboard and turn off all criteria, then when we go back, just checking to see, yes, none of these slices are activated. So if we go back to that dashboard, and we can see this is what we typically would find in the Barents Sea and Norwegian Sea. So there's all the criteria. So I've shown how to find the data, looked at all the examples in here. We decide that the final one that we're going to look at is Wisting and Central. And here we can see lots of information that exists in here. And this is what we're looking for. It's basically a service that's offered by Exploro on the Wisting well 7324/8-1. So this is the piece of information that we were actually seeking. There's lots more functionality. There are maps that we can go to here, just jumping back, one for the Barents Sea and going back in real time. Some of these functions here will be added in future releases, because this is a subscription service and gets better all the time. To just understand what was awarded in the 24th licensing round, all the information is held here. We hold references, we hold lots of information. Stratigraphy, again, just trying to find the various names of formations, and there are different naming schemes. We try and capture as many as we can in the basins, but this isn't all. There is also the chance of seeing data that exists along other parts of the Atlantic margin. UK Northern North Sea, probably more relevant if we're comparing with opportunities and assets in the Norwegian North Sea, but we'll stick with the current plan. And what you can see here is we can quickly go in and select the data within the database. Here you'll see multiple entries for fields, and that's because we have more detailed information broken out by lithostratigraphic units for some of the fields. And you can see that the ages are shown here. And what we've done here right now is we've selected all the Jurassic ages, but there's total flexibility to make different choices in here. So that's what we'll have for now. The UK, we've got a very rich database, and you can see that it's very well populated, probably because it's more mature than the other databases that we have. So this one's very well populated, and in going back, we can look at the dashboards that we have in here. We in actual fact have 3 dashboards. We can look at the different reservoir ages, fluid types, the production status, the year production started, the quadrant that shows it, and some interesting. We've also got a dashboard to look at the reservoir properties, so porosity, permeability, average net to gross, gross thickness, reservoir depth distribution, quite interesting, really kind of showing you that there's the tertiary fields here, and then you've got the deeper Mesozoic, many Jurassic fields deeper down, and this low here, this bimodal distribution, is because much of the Cretaceous is not productive in the northern North Sea. So that's for the reservoir properties. And finally, we've broken out and we can just look at the reservoir properties. So, you know, we could choose to look at it for just quadrant 9 or basically just the Jurassic sequences. And you can see that these are the assets that satisfy the criteria. So again, we're looking at those, and we can use those same parameters and those same selections that now fall across into our reservoir properties and indeed into our sort of general dashboard properties. So we're seeing all the information, and we can turn some of them off. And if we want to have a look at some of the material that we have, you can see here that we've got a plot of API gravity versus depth, and we've got two fields highlighted. I want to show where these come from. So if we go into our introduction and we go to our compare, we can see here that we've selected Hutton from the drop-down list, and here we've selected Ninian. Now we can actually type these in. I'm going to type in a couple of short fields. So Don is going to be one, and Ida is going to be a second one. Oops, this helps if I spell that correctly. So Ida is the second one, and you can see here on the dashboard, you can see that we can compare the. I can make edits on the fly. And that one is done. So you can see this is the oil in place and the recoverable for Don versus the oil in place and the ultimate recoverable reserves for Ida. So Ida is a bigger field. Looking at the API gravity, how they compare, the porosities, the temperatures and pressures, and the formation volume factors and GORs. So just kind of get an idea. But it may be that what we need to do here is actually look how do these two fields compare with the basin. Now to that end, all we have to do is go in here to our active plots, and you'll see that now our highlighted fields are Ida and Don. And you can see that in the API gravity, let me just zoom into that a little bit more. On the API gravity plot here, you can see them highlighted. So they're pretty much, you know, in the middle of the sort of range of what you would kind of expect at this true vertical depth subsea, and the API gravity of these is in the range, you know, 30 to 40. We have lots of different graphs, so we can actually look at the formation volume factor, the porosity, and a number of other parameters. But that shows how we can take information from one basin and we could apply it to another.